This episode of the Black Equity Podcast is brought to you by Sip and Share Wines. Head over to sipandsharewines.com and join the wine club. That's sipandsharewines.com. Join the exclusive wine club today. Black Equity listeners, thank you for coming to another great episode of the Black Equity Podcast. And today I want to touch on something that is near and dear to my heart. I'm seeing a lot of people are getting into podcasting, and it's cool. You know, there's so many different options. Like literally, there's so many podcasts out there, right? But how do I choose which ones I listen to and which ones I don't listen to? Because there's all these podcasts within the culture, and I'll be honest with you, I've never pressed play on any of them. And how do I decide, right? I make my decision based off of the premise of the show. The premise of the show tells me everything I need to know. And so what am I looking for? I'm looking for someone that is genuine. I'm looking for someone that's going to be honest with me. And they're not doing it for their own personal benefit. They're doing it to put seeds into the soil and to take the wisdom that they've learned and to give it back. Those are the things I'm looking for. When I start seeing these podcasts where you can tell really it's all about them. I mean, they can kind of hide it and say that they're giving out all this wisdom, but really they're not. Really, if you really pay close attention, you got to look at the difference between wheat and tare. If you pay close attention, these people aren't for the culture. They never were. But my guest today is for the culture. I stumbled across a great podcast called My Last Dime Podcast with the host Tremaine Wills. I reached out to her and I said, yo, let's connect. Next thing I know, we have this episode. Enjoy. All right, Black Equity listeners, we are here for another great episode for you. Lately, I've been looking in the culture to see what's coming, what's next. And I stumbled across a really great podcast that I think everybody should check out. It's called My Last Dime. And so I reached out to the host, and I am blessed to have Tremaine on the line. Tremaine, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
I am excited for having you on Black Equity Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And tell us a little bit about your podcast. Tell us a little bit about you and why you decided to launch My Last Dime.
Okay, sure. So to start with a little bit about me, I am a financial advisor, money coach, money teacher,
Okay.
extraordinaire. I love teaching the financial literacy aspect of money. I have background as an educator as well. So I'm a former teacher. I spent 3.5 years in the classroom teaching high school math.
Cool.
And through that experience, I learned a lot about teachers and their willingness to give so much of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really motivated me to try to do something to help teachers help themselves. And so that's where My Last Dime came about. It's really focused on giving teachers, coaches, those in service, the tools they need so that they continue serving their community, but not go broke in the process. So it's really a passion project for me because I can see myself in so many of these educators that really, really want to help serve, but a lot of the times it's at the detriment to themselves.
Yeah, I know a lot of teachers end up having to request outside funds or raise funds in order to do basic things in their classrooms. And those end up being some of the best teachers, the ones that try to be as resourceful as possible Why do you think that is? Why do you think there isn't the necessary funding for teachers? I didn't realize I was going to have this part of the conversation, but now that we're here, why do you think that is?
Well, I don't think that our country respects education like it should.
Mm,
We see year after year the budget cuts happening, and we don't pay teachers enough to do the jobs that they do. If we think about how important education is, putting somebody in charge of making them responsible for our youth's future, should come with a higher paycheck, but it doesn't.
mm,
And
yeah,
so a lot of our teachers, they get into this field not because of the money, but because they believe in that. And so they find ways to supplement. And oftentimes it becomes, it comes out of their pockets. And so I think that it's amazing. We have the teachers that we have that are willing to sacrifice themselves, their own finances. But at the end of the day, we need to be teaching our teachers, well, if we aren't going to provide you the income, let's teach you how to get what you need by creating partnerships, sponsorships, finding organizations that believe in your community that will help you get the projects funded.
nice, nice. And so when I first came across your podcast, because it launched, was it September 30th, right?
Yes, on International Podcast Day.
Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
let me ask this for those who may be interested in podcasting. How did that moment feel to get your first episode out to the world?
Oh my goodness, it was terrifying.
I feel you.
um, so we all have this fear of nobody's gonna listen to what I have to say, and there's so many other people doing this, and all the things we tell ourselves. And to finally overcome that fear and to just start talking and sharing what I know was amazing. And I think that there's nobody that can do what you do like you do it. And
That's
so
right.
it's important to push past all of those fears because there's somebody that needs to hear what you have to say. So it was amazing. And my thing is, if there's anybody who has, you know, something to share, move past that fear and just get out here because somebody is waiting for you.
For you though, I mean, you are a natural speaker. You've been speaking in front of classrooms. You've been speaking in front of just different settings, from what I can tell. So you already kind of had the necessary training for this. Would you agree or would you disagree?
So I did take public speaking courses when I was in college,
Okay.
but I still would argue that not having formal training is still not an excuse
That's true.
because we learn by experience. And so regardless of a course I've taken or not, the more you speak, the better you become. And so with any skill you're trying to attain, you have to practice it and build that muscle. So you can be terrified all day long, but the fear is not going to go away until you do it. And no matter how many times I've spoken before, there's still, the butterflies in the pit of your stomach, and you just push past it.
You're doing a great job. So what can we expect for the first season of My Last Dime? What's the vision? Who are you looking to work with, if anyone? What is kind of the vision of My Last Dime?
So for this first season, we are incredibly interested in finding teachers who have small businesses already, um, and just looking to promote them. So on the first few episodes, we have a segment called My Two Cents. And every business highlighted there is somebody that I've worked with personally that, they just have a passion for service and a heart for service. So I would love to connect with teachers, people who might be coaches that, are really just passionate about the community and highlighting their services, and letting more people know the great work that they're doing.
Dope, dope. I like it. I really love this notion. When I first came across what your first episode, the first thing I thought, just in my mind, where a lot of people are into philanthropy and giving, and they're always working on different projects within the community. I didn't see teacher. That wasn't in my head. I guess I internalized being an investor and being in philanthropy. And sometimes what ends up happening is everybody is pulling from you, and it's take, 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 and there's very little bit of, putting back into yourself. And what I saw your podcast as was an opportunity to, be filled back up with wisdom and knowledge. So that's kind of how I internalized, your first episode and just listening to where you're headed.
Thank you so much. That's exactly the goal.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, so for people that are listening, they also heard you throw in a nugget there that you're a financial coach. You understand money. So talk a little bit about that. You have your own company in that space. So tell us about your company and some of the services you provide.
Of course. So the name of my business is Mind Over Money LLC. We do financial coaching, online courses, public speaking, in-person small group courses for organizations. And the goal is to first help people shift their mindset around money and help them develop financial discipline. So in my time as a financial advisor for other firms, we created financial plans and told individuals what to do with their money. And in that space, I didn't feel like I was teaching anything. And so it was just like, here's this plan, this is what's going to happen. But there was never a why behind it. There was never a mental shift to help people understand you don't have to have a financial advisor forever if you don't want one. And I think now this is going to step on some toes, but the financial services industry is so large because it capitalizes off of people's ignorance. And so my company focuses on teaching people how to become self-sufficient so that you don't have to rely on a financial advisor making money moves for you if that's not what you want. Now, if you never want to manage your own money for yourself, excellent. But I believe that if we're going to close this wealth gap, we need to put people in position so that they can teach other people how to do what they're doing. So that's the premise of what we do. We 100% believe in education. And at the end of the day, if I can teach you anything and you're better off than when you came to me, our work was done.
I like it. Now you threw something out there, so we got to touch on it. I'm a very good listener. You talked about the wealth gap, right? So what is this wealth gap that you're talking about? You may not necessarily have the numbers in front of you, but you just give us a premise. What is this wealth gap for those who don't know?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when we take a look at different populations, we can talk about racial wealth gap. We can talk about so many different things. There are populations of people who have access to information that continue to get wealthy off of the information. And then there are populations of people that the financial services industry just does not cater to. And so when you don't have access to information, you do what you see. And if that is not working, you continue to spiral down, and therefore the gap widens. And so our mission is to bring the education and the knowledge to the population that is being ignored. And while we might not be able to change everybody's mindset about being able to change their financial future, not relying on government assistance, there are people that when you do present information to them, a light bulb clicks. And so that's who we're trying to reach.
Now, so you're saying there's a population out there that may be underserved in this area. Am I safe to assume that they look like you and I?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is it safe to assume that they look
absolutely.
like you and I?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the Black people in this country are in many times left behind when it comes to wealth because of their lack of of knowledge and their lack of information, and I would say their lack of vision. It's hard to have a vision if you don't know what to look towards. And so, what your company is doing, and even your podcast is doing, is maybe shining that light, saying, "Here's the information. Here's an opportunity." It's almost like you become a lighthouse for the community who may be lost in this particular area.
Yes. Wow, that's powerful. I like the visual. I do think that we are a lighthouse. Um, because if you're looking for information, you can find it. And our goal is to really make that information accessible, and remove some of those barriers to entry to, creating generational wealth and starting to just provide families with access and resource.
Nice, nice. So, what, from your experience, to people that actually reach out to you and they work with you, what is one of the biggest things that they didn't realize before? What is something that is a common occurrence that you're seeing out there, for people who are reaching out to you, that they're just stunned that, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this existed, or I didn't know that I could do that. What is something, along those lines?
Um, I would have to say the biggest one is not knowing where their money's going. Um,
Mm,
so many of us just do not follow a budget. And I think that there has become such this taboo. And, it's kind of starting to shift where budget isn't a bad word. I think we associated budget as negative, meaning, you're broke. But I tell clients all the time, multi-billion-dollar corporations follow a budget. It just has more zeros than yours has. So if they are following a budget, telling the money what to do, you need to do the same. And so a budget doesn't have to be this restrictive thing. You can see clearly your money coming in and going out. So um, when we start to track where the money is going, we find those spending leaks and starting to see, oh my goodness, I actually can afford to invest. I can afford to make extra payments and get out of debt. Um, Instead of just, going through the feast and famine that is payday.
mm.
I got paid today. I deserve to take myself out. No, you don't. No, you don't. We have to transition the thought from, okay, payday is every other week, and start to think about, okay, how can I get paid every day?
So I can't go out and go get my Popeyes
You
chicken sandwich.
okay? So
I
first
can't
of
do
all,
that.
Popeye's chicken sandwich. Us, have made Popeyes so wealthy. Just
We did.
because your cousin and everybody else on the block went and got a Popeye's chicken sandwich does not mean you needed to do that.
The whole
Listen,
culture was
if
at
we,
Popeyes, and we could have saved that up and
I'm
did
just
something with
saying,
it.
if we keep that same energy and apply that energy
Hmm.
towards, you know, anything, housing,
Anything.
we could buy real estate, we can start all kinds of business.
Hmm.
There's so many things we can do with our buying power that is not buying chicken sandwich. I mean, how black was that? A chicken sandwich.
Mm.
We just fed
I
right
know.
into the stereotype.
We did. We fell for the. We
We
got
did.
bamboozled. But I feel what you're saying about telling your money what to do. To me, that's a very powerful statement. Is, hey, you work for me, I don't work for you. And until that mindset shifts, you'll always be chasing after the money, and always, being two steps behind this money
Mm-hmm.
game. So I think it's very powerful. Tell your money what to do. I like that.
Thanks.
You're very welcome. So let's look into the culture a little bit. Let's examine the culture a little bit deeper around money. And so when I think about, my last dime, I think about people who, for whatever reason in the culture, uh, they gave their last dime away trying to please everybody else around them.
Yes.
And, I think it just fits perfect for this conversation. So one of the first people that I think of, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it is what it is. I think of someone like a Toni Braxton.
Mm.
I think of her story of her, giving to her sisters or giving to different family members, and her nearly losing it all, if not losing it all, before
Mm-hmm.
rebounding. I think of Mike Tyson, uh, having all this money and then losing it all. I think of MC
Mm-hmm.
Hammer, being on top of the world, and the next thing you know, it's all gone. And then when you ask them, you sit down in these interviews and you listen to what MC Hammer says. He said he was too busy taking care of friends and family, and he never stopped to take care of
Mm-hmm.
himself. And so, as I'm listening to your podcast, that's kind of that spirit that I'm feeling. And so, what is the action steps someone can take, and what are some other examples that you've seen in the culture? What are some action steps people can take to make sure they don't fall into that trap of those three
Yeah,
examples?
that, you know, it's unfortunate for us to see those things happening on a large scale. But one thing to notice is that making more money does not change your mindset about money. It just amplifies the issues that you have with it. So either you're good at managing money when you have a little bit, or you're not. And having more of it will only expose which one you are. So if you've been accustomed to continually being that person who's always taking care of everybody else, when you get more money, that just grows. So that same spirit of giving, 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 well, you have more money now, so you're gonna give at a faster rate. If you've been accustomed to spending and buying lavish things and Siberian tigers, you know, that is amplified when your money increases. And so the mindset, the need to understand, hey, when I have a little bit, managing that as a little bit is only going to translate the same as when I have more money. And so I think the biggest thing to take from this is that regardless of if you have a little bit or if you have a lot, you should always take care of you first. And more often than that, that's saving or investing before taking care of other people, other expenses, whatever the case might be. And so if you're doing that on a smaller scale with $100,000, when those zeros multiply, you should be doing that same thing with the millions. And I don't think um, those that mindset, that skill was something that was developed before the money came. And so when it came, it was like, ooh, we rich.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just spin, spin, spin. And so, unfortunately, our I think that our culture expects us to help when we make more money, when we start to reach, this level of perceived financial stability. I've worked with so many professionals who, they're making over $250,000 and they have to send money home. They have to send money back to help. And that's the black tax. You give back to help pull up, but if you're not teaching while you're giving that money back, you will always be passing money out. And so we have to start teaching other people how to manage their money so that, okay, when I give you this money, you learn how to multiply it, and you're not coming back to me every single time to ask for more money.
Yeah, when you're saying that, the question that I can feel people asking is, but I thought giving was better than receiving. And what are your thoughts on that? Is giving better than receiving? Is receiving better than giving? What how do you work around that statement that people have been taught all their life to give, 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 give?
Giving is definitely better than receiving, but the receiver needs to believe that as well.
Mm, break that down for me.
So
You dropping wisdom.
if I am constantly giving to, family, cousins, whoever, what are you giving?
Mm,
Are you it's easy to say you have this so you should give it to me, but I don't think people realize that there's power in showing up, being present. Not all gifts have to be monetary. Your gift
Yep.
can be education. Your gift can be time spent. Your gift can be so many different things. And I believe that once you become a person who gives, it's harder to continue to take because you
Mm.
start to feel what it's like for people to continuously take from you.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there also has to be a point in time too where the givers learn how to say no, because there's a line where your giving becomes enabling, and you have to
Yep.
be careful not to cross that, because then it's draining to you and your gifts are now, you're not giving freely. It becomes like a I have to do this versus a I
Yeah.
wanted to. This is out of love.
When I pay attention to the culture, I always kind of get concerned when someone immediately just blows up. I think of Little Nas X. You get one hit song, now you're all over the place, and everybody's pulling at
Mm-hmm.
you left and right. And I'm always wondering, I hope they got a good team around them. Because if you don't have a good team, and sometimes the team is the one that's taken from you
Mm-hmm.
too, though. So that's why it's so important that, those 4 or 5 people that you call your inner circle, sometimes it's not just friends and family. Sometimes it's, that immediate, that manager, that assistant, the this, the that. Sometimes your own accountant could be the person who's
Mm-hmm.
draining you. And so, I think about that as well. A Cardi B, someone, within 1 year is now on top 10 of Forbes list of hip hop artists. These are situations where it's like, okay, but do you have the things in place to manage this, because you've never had
Mm-hmm.
this before?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Um, the pace in which people become, overnight success. Sometimes when we are striving to, make more money, become more successful, we go through a period of nobody seeing us. And in
Mm.
that period, I think that's when you learn to identify yourself and what you need around you, check your energy, figure out, okay, who is really going to support me when this level up happens. And if we're not careful and we experience that blow up too fast, we never have that moment of self-reflection where we can identify the energy of the people that come into our space. And
Mm.
so, a lot of us, we want things to change quickly and we want to have this massive success, but we're not ready for it. And if we're not careful, we're going to get what we ask for. And that blow up's going to happen instantaneously. And you're going to lose everything you thought you wanted. So, I have that same sentiment as you, where I think about people who have, blown up so quickly. And I'm like, man, like you said, I really, really hope the people around them are actually for them and not for the check that comes with them.
So how do you, and maybe you don't have this answer, but maybe you do. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in a second. How do you manage the energy around you? How do you know if the people around you are just takers, or they actually is I'm placing my seed in good soil? What's the difference? Because both have hands out, right? Both have a handout, and they're saying give. But there's someone that I'm going to give to that's going to be bad soil, and you'll never see that person ever again. And then I give to good soil; they may multiply those dollars, and I may get back tenfold. So, how do I know the difference of the energy?
That's a great question. I'm going to say, sometimes you can't tell.
Mm,
There are
mm, mm, mm.
people that wear a mask and they wear it well, and they might look like, they might sound like, they're here for you and whatever you need. They may even be given to you before, you can provide any return. Um, and those, I see those people as opportunists. They see something, so they invest in it, expecting, you to be able to pay back and, pay more. But unfortunately, I think a lot of it just comes from experience. And the more you experience, good soil, you can start to see patterns, traits, characteristics in people who have a giving nature. There's not a, uh, they don't have this air about them that is, I'm just here for the come up.
Mm, got you. I think, for me, um, one trick that I love to use, not even a trick, but one thing that I love to use is I like to wait till the next season
Mm.
shows up. And so, they come around in summer. And so let's see where you are on September 30th. Let's see where you are when that fall hit. Because literally, to me, time isn't real. That's just my personal opinion. Time is a made up thing by humans for us to be able to understand what time it is so we can all be on the same page of things. But what is real on Earth is seasons. And so if I'm in summer, especially if it's late summer, and people are coming to me about things, let's see where you are. Let's give it 2 or 3 weeks. Let's see what happens when fall really hits. When that first leaf hit, and I walk outside and I can hear the crunch underneath my shoe. Are you still going to be around, or have you already
Mm.
disappeared? Because those seasonal relationships can tell me everything. And a lot of people will show up the last day of summer because they know they're not going to be. They got to get to you before the leaf drop. It's a very spiritual thing, but I really pay attention to, as those seasons shift, what are those energies around me
Mm.
doing?
That's good. That's good.
So I want people to pay attention to that, because everything else is a facade. All the time and the this, and you're my best friend, you my
Mm-hmm.
cousin, all that other stuff is like facades and labels that we put on things so we can recognize it within our midst. But when those seasons start shifting and things start changing, and when I'm not up
Mm-hmm.
anymore, because that's a seasonal
Mm-hmm.
thing too. When I'm not popping, or whatever is the new word to use, where are you
Right.
going to be? And so those are the things that I'm paying attention to with
Mm-hmm.
energy. And another thing, I know I'm supposed to be asking you questions, but you didn't touch my spirit here, is I always pay attention to roots before
Mm-hmm.
fruits. I'm looking at, are you really trying to build something with me from the
Mm-hmm.
ground up?
Mm.
Or are you just going to wait till, we done planted this
Mm-hmm.
thing? The necessary nurturing is happening. The sunlight has hit it. And then you come in and get the apple and say, wow, this is a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful apple. And so one of the reasons why I reached out to you is I want roots. I see where you're headed. I see where you're going. It's like, you and I should have roots with one another, because it's perfectly aligned with what Black equity is trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. I thank you so much. This is such a rich conversation.
Well, that's what we do on Black equity. We're always digging into the roots, and we're trying to figure out how do we have long lasting relationships with
Mm-hmm.
people. And sometimes that means slow money. Sometimes it means it's not
Mm-hmm.
fast money. Everybody, hey, let's get to that fast money. Let's get this, let's get that. But sometimes you and I could be working together for 6 months and never actually made money
Mm-hmm.
together, but we made
Yeah,
roots.
that's that building phase. So many of us want this microwave success where it's like, okay, let me get it right now, not realizing that you can't sustain success if there's no system in place
Mm,
to keep that thing going as it grows. You have to be able to scale up, and all of that comes from the groundwork beforehand. You got to put the
mm-hmm,
foundation in place. And I think a lot of us, especially with this social media, it's like, oh, everybody appears to be doing so well. And many of us don't realize that some of this success, the true success, you didn't see what was happening
mm,
when they were by
mm, mm, mm.
themselves, when they were in that season preparing for this harvest. A lot of us just see the harvest and we're like, I want that. Thinking, okay, that can be
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow. That's not how it works. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. If every time you see somebody it's all fruits, that makes me a
Mm-hmm.
little leery. If it's all fruits all the time, because some things aren't even in season. Sometimes it's not good to have a peach
Mm-hmm.
out. And so if you got a whole bunch of peaches and it ain't peach season, I'm a little worried. Like, what's going on here? What is in those peaches? And but hey, I don't want to get too deep up in there. But now, I've been talking about Sip and Share wines for quite some time. Now you have a chance to enter for a free giveaway. The Conjurer bottle, which is the Old Vine Zinfandel, is now available for a free giveaway. Here's how you enter. You follow Sip and Share Wines over on Instagram. That's Sip and Share Wines. You like the post that is tagged giveaway, and you tag at least 5 friends. Comment below that post and share with us your favorite red wine. Now, for a bonus entry, tag 2 more friends with an additional comment. This giveaway closes October 31st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Winner will be announced on November 1st in the Sip and Share Wine story with a direct message. By entering, participants confirm they are of the age of 21 or older, open to U.S. residents only. Now, back to the show. Okay, so let me turn things on you, because most people think I ask all the questions. And so, what questions do you have as a new podcaster, um, or any just as a human being? What questions do you have from the little bit that you may have heard from Black Equity? What kind of questions do you have?
So I'm listening to a couple episodes. I see that you're really interested in connecting with people who are actually doing the work and not
Yes.
blowing smoke. How have you been able to find these relationships, build with people, genuine connections, and start to grow and nurture those relationships while maintaining your business?
Great question. I believe, and I could be totally wrong. First thing, let me just say this: I know nothing.
None of us do.
Okay, none of us do. So I've coined myself as DJ Wisdom, but the greatest wisdom is knowing nothing. And when you know nothing, then you get to kind of pay attention to what's real and what's not, just by just listening. A lot of times I listen a lot. But to answer your question, I believe like attracts like. I also believe greatness attracts enemies. And so there's still that situation of, well, who's coming to me and who's not coming to me. So I'll be honest with you, most of the people that will ever appear on Black Equity is because y'all found me. You found our page. You came to use the fruits and roots thing. You came to our garden and you found our page. You liked our stuff. You were commenting on our things. And so like attracts like. And so if I'm posting things on Instagram that are pertinent to our culture, and I'm seeing someone commenting and they're really feeling this topic, and then I'll also see that they've actually built something of their own, even if it's just the beginning. Because do not despise the days of small beginnings. So even if it's the beginning, I want to work with that person because we're vibing on the same topics, and you're building something of your own. So I know it's not no handout because you got your own hands. And so that's what I'm paying attention to for people that want to work together. There are people who reach out to me that aren't doing anything. And it's like, I can't, there's nothing. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to multiply 0. And so in those situations, I always say, build something of your own. I can't tell you what to build, but build something. So then when you and I are talking, we're on equal playing fields. Because I never really want to hire anyone. I'm not much of a hirer. I rather partner. So that's just the way I kind of view it. No. But for you, how do you plan on, digging your roots in and building this thing from the ground floor?
Well, that is an excellent question.
And we can keep going back and forth with questions.
I am a very passion-led person, and I move with my heart. And so I believe in service. And so I really am interested in looking for organizations that want to serve, to partner with, so we can combine resources and multiply. So,
What does that look like? Like if I'm speaking to different people in the culture and I bump into someone, who is that person? Who is the ideal organization? Not necessarily a name, but what work are they doing
they,
that you're
sorry, I didn't mean to
go
cut
ahead.
you off. They
You're fine.
are grassroots. They have probably funded their nonprofit or small business with money out of their own pocket. Um, they're a giver, so they get it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I want to be able to come in and help provide some relief to
Mm.
just say, hey, you don't have to do this by yourself. Let me help. Let me help you find resources. Let's find other organizations that are doing what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, I really think that so many of us are doing great things, but we are working in silos and not
Mm.
understanding that there's somebody, in the next neighborhood over that wants this same thing for their community too. But neither of you know that there's this grant, there's this resource that you can apply for together and get the resources you need. So, I don't know. I think of myself as a connector, really just wanting to give everything I download and being able to just push back out everything I have. So,
Yeah, I think we're alike in that way. When I hear you saying that, I picture you being on some boards, different opportunities to be on an advisory board, or just a board of directors, either over a nonprofit or a passion-led for-profit
yeah,
company.
I've sat on a few.
Okay,
So
I can
yeah,
hear it. I can hear it.
I'm super super passionate about just serving communities. So, you know, anybody who has that same passion for is a friend for me, because we have to start looking out for each other in a way that is actually uplifting and not leeching. So,
Yes,
yeah.
and it makes me think of something I tweet about all the time is the wheat and the tear. I literally tweet about the wheat and the tear once a week, and sometimes you can't tell the difference. Most times you can't tell the difference because you said, someone who's building something or somebody who's leeching,
Mm-hmm.
right? So sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake, and like you said, the best way to tell it is through experience, through time, through you really don't know the wheat and the tear until the season is over, until the harvest
Mm-hmm.
time, until you've gathered up everything. And so I think that those things will be revealed to you. And I know they're coming. I know from this conversation, people are listening and they're like, "Ooh, I want to work with her." And so they're going to reach out. They're going to have either be on your podcast or reach out to you in some way. And so I'm excited, to see, how that works out. And I'm always here if you ever need any advice or have any questions as well.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
What? Why is that? What's
Just,
going on? What are you excited about?
finding great connections. You can
Oh, okay. Yeah.
when you find a partnership that sometimes you can just feel it. It's hard
Hmm.
to articulate the feeling, but everything happens as it should. And
Yeah.
sometimes we just have to move in faith, understanding that what will be will be, what is supposed to be will be. So it has me excited.
Well, I think the vision you have, because to me, if somebody doesn't have a vision, I don't know, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know if you don't know where you're going, how could I ever point you in the direction of where
Right.
to go? And so you have a vision of where you're going with this. And I honestly feel like a lot of nonprofit organizations need to be um, on your podcast, and of course partner with your company if they choose to. But at the very least, at the very minimum, every nonprofit within the culture needs to be on your podcast. And so I see that as an avenue for people who aren't having the conversation yet. I feel like you're filling a void that is in the culture. And for any nonprofits that are listening, like really doing the work and really are trying to go to another level, I feel like your podcast is a great place for them to have those conversations and then potentially, work with your company and work with you and be better. And I know sometimes in the culture, it's hard to tell people to be better because then they look at themselves like,
Right.
I thought I was
Right.
good. But no, oh yeah, you're good. But even what's old girl name? From the tennis, golf, right? The 16-year-old,
I
some something
mhm.
golf. She she's good, and she's made a big wave in tennis, but obviously she has to get better because she didn't win the
Right.
championship. And so it's okay to tell people, let's be better. I don't know where we got in the culture where everybody is popping their collar and everybody thinks they're on top. I don't know what this top is, but everybody thinks they're at it. This imaginary
Mhm.
place. And it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm happy for you. I'm not hating on you. When I tell you to be better, this is not hatred. This is you did good, but there's still more to
Right.
do. There's still more work to do.
Right. I agree. I think a lot of us assume that there is some destination that we're supposed to be reaching, and there is no end. It's just a journey.
Mm,
You're continuously going. And so you never we're never supposed to hit like a final milestone. There's always a next level and a next level, and we're supposed to grow and evolve and elevate and show people, hey, come on, come with me, um,
hmm
and not become complacent.
For those, and by the way, you're still free to ask me any questions that you want to. But for those who are on the journey with you, that you find out are the leeches, right? And you find out that they aren't the real. How do you handle that? I mean, obviously they'll drop off by themselves, so it's not much you have to do. But that's one thing I've learned. When something's not for you, it pretty much ends up removing itself over
Mm-hmm.
time, for the most part. But so, how do you handle that though when you thought somebody was a genuine giver or a genuine person or genuine overall, and then they drop off? How do you handle that emotionally? How do you handle that logically?
So those hurt.
Yeah,
Um, for me personally, it has been a learning experience. I used to take those things personally,
yeah,
um, and start playing the victim. How could you do this to me? I thought we were better than this. All the thoughts and feelings we have when we feel like we've been wronged. But the
yeah.
reality is, there was a lesson you were supposed to learn from that experience. And it was the lesson for that level. And so
Mm,
learning that lesson allows you to elevate to the next level. Sometimes we deal with things and we have to experience different types of people so that we're prepared for a much more difficult obstacle that's going to come
mm-hmm,
when we elevate. So, it hurts, but the more I've gone on this journey, the more I've realized there are things that you just have to experience, because you have to be able to withstand some things when you are pursuing your greatness and you're walking in purpose and you're doing what you're supposed to do. So many obstacles are going to come your way, and the further you go, the bigger the challenge, the more it hurts. But if you've never experienced, betrayal or pain or setback, feeling defeated, the depending on the level you on, that emotion could multiply. So you have to learn how to navigate that when the pain is small, when the betrayal is small, so that when you start to feel it on a larger scale, it doesn't break you.
mm. I like that. I think about something TD Jake said one time. He said, "What you do on one level, you'll be doing on the next." And a lot of times what ends up happening is enemies come to um, to elevate you to the next
Mm-hmm.
level, and that's why he always smiles when he sees a new enemy coming. Because he's like,
Yes.
"Ooh, elevation time."
Yes.
And so that's kind of the way I view. I literally get excited when people show up and they announce, that they're here for war. It's like, wow, okay. Well, this means I get to go to another level. This is exciting. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm not. I have a hedge of protection
Mm-hmm.
around me, so there's not much you're going to be able to accomplish. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
And then actually that's how this podcast was born. About 12 months ago, it was born from me reaching out to other podcasts and saying, "Hey, we should work together on these projects. We should do this," and them basically pushing me to the side and saying, "Oh no, we're not doing that over here. We're getting money."
Wow.
And I know. And I said, wow, okay. Yeah, oh, really? And so, literally within a week, Black Equity was born. And so, a lot of those same people are now, trying to follow us on Instagram and trying to find out what we're doing. And I'm hearing some people want to be guests. It's like, wait, hold on. 11 months ago, 12 months ago, in a different season, a different time, when you didn't know who I was or what I was about, I was just a regular person coming with real projects and saying, let's do real work. You wanted to get your money. You wanted to get your money. You wanted to do whatever it is you wanted to do. And now, when you see us doing real work here, now you pop
Mm-hmm.
up because your money slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
And now you want goodwill in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I got a
No,
little.
you're good. This is good. I think that, when we hear certain things, and what I'm hearing from you right now is like your enemies being made your footstool.
Oh,
And
yes.
I think a lot of us see it as like, oh, I'm crushing them, I'm stepping on them. But no, this is really the platform to get to that next level. This is you
Mm-hmm.
being able to share the story that might motivate somebody else to get to that next level. It's not about crushing anybody or thinking you're better than them. It's just being able to reach the next level. And so it's so powerful to hear your story and like see myself in that. I
Mm.
think these conversations are important because it helps people who are in that very moment say, okay, all I gotta do is keep going, I can step up above this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I already see it. I already see um, where you're headed. Not exactly because I'm not you, but I see that you are grounded and you come from good soil. I mean, you are from 757, right?
Absolutely.
And so, for those who don't know, what is 757
the
and what's going on in Virginia? Because there's a lot of money flowing in the VA.
the 757 is the greatest
So hold on now. Slow down.
greatest
Slow. You was doing good all podcast. Hold on now. Come back. The greatest
the
what?
greatest piece of land in all the world. But no,
Wow.
I have great pride in my hometown.
Right. Right.
757 is a Hampton Roads area of Virginia. We are huge military town, lots of different folks coming in and out. Most recently, I think the biggest thing we've seen was the Something in the Water Festival,
Mm.
put together by Pharrell and family, which,
Mm-hmm.
did record numbers for our community. I think that this area is a slept on gem.
I agree.
There it
That we agree on.
Yes.
The greatest and all that, but the gym, yes.
You got to have pride in where you come from. So, and for me, I have great pride in this area.
Mm-hmm.
But I see a lot happening in Hampton Roads. There's a lot of growth here. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of people think, oh, DC, Northern Virginia. I think it's saturated there. You can go there if you want to and sit in 5 hours of traffic every day. Be my
Mm-hmm.
guest. But the 757, because there's so many people that come from all over the world, is
Mm-hmm.
so diverse, and there's power in diversity. I definitely love us. I love us so much. but being able to learn from other cultures too.
Hmm.
Um, there can be magic that happens here if we will tap into the resources.
Yeah, being we're headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, I love Charlotte too. That's like the second best place.
Oh, well, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, we're the Queen City, and so for us, we have like when you talk about diversity, it's literally everybody here. I mean, it's not New York
Mm-hmm.
everybody, but it's you got your old money, you got your new money, you got your no money, and you really learn from all
Mm-hmm.
three, to be honest. And then you have this very strong idea of religion being down here. Now, I'm not really much on religion. I'm really great on
Mm-hmm.
spirituality. But the religion part matters because it's a thread within the culture. And so there's all these different things happening in the South, and it's kind of sad that one of the greatest migrations in America was everybody leaving these areas. Everybody saying we're out of here. We're going to Detroit. We're going to California. And I get it. I know why they did it at the time. But really, when I'm looking at economics going to another level, it's Virginia, it's North Carolina, it's Atlanta, it's parts of Tennessee. These are the areas that are, to me, going to another level. Everybody knows it. It's Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
Maryland. These are the areas that are going to another level if we would, pay attention, because the cost of living many times is a lot lower than these New Yorks and these LAs that everybody ran off to.
You're 100% right.
Well, thank you. I'm glad somebody knows that I'm telling the truth
Mm-hmm.
around here. So, any last questions you have before we let everybody know where they can find you, where they can reach out to you?
So my last question is really, how can we support Black Equity Network? What can we do to take your platform to the next level?
Wow, I love that. Um, Here's the first thing that I'll say. I believe in friendship before everything else. I believe the greatest equity, the greatest Black equity, is friendship. I believe the greatest equity is relational equity. And so it can't be a thing where we only talk once every 3 years. It has to be a true
Mm-hmm.
community. And so I'm looking for people where we share information, even if it's on the quick tip, a quick text, a quick instant message like, yo, this is happening in your city. You need to know
Oh,
about it.
that's good.
That's the kind of stuff that I do. Anybody who knows me knows that when my name comes in your inbox, or when Black Equity name comes in your inbox, that means something's happening in your city or something is happening in your sector, and I'm sending it to you for your growth. Now, if you don't take advantage of this, I don't know what to tell you. And so that's one thing. Let's look at relational equity. And then when there's opportunities for real equity, when I say real, what the world considers equity, investing in real estate opportunities with each other, knowing that a startup is coming in a particular area. Um, hey, this nonprofit is really doing really great work. Nobody's going to be talking about it on a national level, but hey, you can come help us on a local
Mm-hmm.
level do this. Those are the types of things that I feel allows the network to grow. The network is only as great as the people that decide to believe
Mm-hmm.
in it and decide to utilize it. And so that's the second way. And then the third way is to build your own network. The If you have your own 757 network, and it's an extension of Black Equity Network, then everything that you do is Black Equity Network. And we don't have to have our name on it because you're doing it. You know about us. We'll support it, and we'll come in whenever we need to help out in any way we can. Or we'll find somebody that was on an earlier podcast or on an earlier project that we can refer you to on that particular item. And if we have that community with one another, we have no choice but to
Mm-hmm.
grow. What I've seen in the culture is everybody's territorial and everybody is trying to be better than the next person. And I think they say everybody's keeping up with the Joneses. I don't think anybody's keeping up with any Joneses. I think everybody is trying um, to either outdo these fake Joneses, or they're trying to murder the Joneses so nobody knows about the
Mm.
Joneses. And that's what's happening in the culture. And so the thing about wheat and tear, and this is why I tweet it every week, because I'm noticing the difference between the real and the fake. See, the wheat, when it gets to harvest time, it bows. The wheat bows and the tear stands
Mm-hmm.
tall. And so here's how you know, everybody in the culture. Here's how you know the difference. If every single time, we talked about this a little bit earlier, if every single time you're seeing these people in the culture and they're always standing tall, they've never gone through any failures, they've never had to do anything, but they're just successful, everything's wonderful all the time, that means they're standing tall at all times. And that's tear. Wheat bows when it gets to its highest state. It bows to the wind. And that's how nature tells us what's real and what's
Mm-hmm.
fake. And so, what I empower people to do is, when you get to that level, which is on a daily basis, you're getting to new levels. And let's say you land a really big nonprofit for your podcast, bow to them, open your doors to these people. Don't look down on anyone. Don't stand tall.
Mm-hmm.
Bow. And so that's what I'm noticing, that's going on. I'm not sure if that answered your
No, it
question.
does. It does.
Okay.
My favorite thing that you said was build your own network. We don't have to
Yes.
have our name on it, which is massive. I think so many of us want our name to be on everything that we are not willing to just support just because we have a common goal. Oh well, they're doing that thing. It's similar to what I'm doing, but it's not my thing. And like
Yeah. Well.
I think it was
No. Go ahead.
massive that you just mentioned that. We have to be, that needs to be our mindset. We don't have to have our branding, our logo, our name on everything.
Well, it dilutes the brand anyway. It's not real that Black Equity Network is on every single, thing that's out
Mm-hmm.
there. No, let's build your stuff up. Let's build you up, and then we can partner
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
future. But it's going to be harder for us to partner together if your name's not built up. So let's build you up for the next 6 months. I'll disappear. I mean, that's what people do in hip hop. What they do in hip hop is Kendrick Lamar becomes the biggest name, and then he disappears for
So
6 months, and
somebody
that gives you
else can
time
step in.
for
Mm-hmm.
SZA, gives you time for Sir, it gives you time for J Rock, so you can see, well, who are they, and what stands the test of time is Top Dog Entertainment, because hey, let's spread out the wealth. You can't have Tupac and Snoop come at the same time. You have to give room for the ecosystem to grow. And so, if you're building networks in these other areas, great. Why would I compete with that? Why would I compete with more money flowing in a particular area that, if we can build up, we can tap into at a later
Mm-hmm.
point? You just let me know what you need and I'll help you out behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes. The real work is happening behind the
Yes.
scenes, not in front of it. Anyway, I'm sorry. I got a little
No,
carried
that's
away.
it. That's
So
it.
so you tell me, for the people that are listening, how do we go listen to your podcast? And how often are you going to be dropping these episodes? And then how can people work with you? How can people be a part of what you're building and the network that you have?
So my last dime is available on Spotify, Google Podcast, Radio Public, and Anchor right now. Apple doesn't love us yet, but we're coming soon. Um,
Okay. Hmm.
we release episodes every Monday morning, so we'll
Okay.
be happening weekly. And
Okay.
my
Awesome.
website for my company is mindovermoney.net. And so there
Mm.
you'll be able to find, how to partner with me if you're interested in any courses. There's some free resources on there. You can have access to my blog, podcast episodes, everything that you need is available at the website. So that was mindovermoney.net.
I love it.
Yes.
I love the mind over money, because I always say that wisdom is greater than money.
Absolutely.
And so that kind of goes along, that's aligned with my thinking. But why is, last question, and I'll leave you alone, I promise. Why is wisdom, or why is the mind over money, in your opinion?
Because your mind is where your power is. If you can't control your thoughts, you won't be able to control anything else in your life. So you can have all the money in the world come in to your bank account. But if you are not strong enough to tell that money what to do, it'll go do whatever it wants to do. Whatever you feel like doing for the day, your emotions will control how you spend. And so, and that's with anything. I talk a lot about money, but that just goes back to having discipline. If you find yourself struggling with money, chances are you struggle with maintaining a diet or exercising, or you have rash anger. There's chaos and lack of discipline in lots of different areas. So if you can't control your mind, you won't be able to control your life.
I love it. Everybody go check out My Last Dime podcast. You'll get more wisdom like this. And also reach out to Tremaine Wills over at mindovermoney.net. Is
Yes,
that correct?
That's it.
And thank you so much for coming on the show. And if anything happens in the culture that is related to some of the topics that we were talking about today, where we see, unfortunately, if an artist or a business person is gone bankrupt, or they've gave all their money away, come back on the show. Let's talk about it and let's analyze it and see what wisdom we can pick up.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on the show, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks.
I found that life is a lot better when you start building roots with people instead of just showing up and picking the fruits. When you actually sit down and have genuine connections with people and do whatever you can to help one another along this journey, that's when things really get good. So this is one of my favorite episodes because we get to see how both brands continue to grow and help one another on our respective paths. And so I encourage everyone, go listen to My Last Dime podcast with Tremaine Wills. Go listen every week and hear the different pieces of wisdom that she's providing you. As of today, there's at least 2 episodes that you can go listen to right now and sink your teeth into. And then every Monday, you're getting a new episode until further notice. So keep checking her out. Keep continuing to find new and exciting and great podcasts. Don't just settle for what the popular podcasts are out here in the culture. Because if you're not careful, you'll just be listening to an hour or two of nothingness. And it becomes a circle of absolutely nothing. And what did you really accomplish? They say the average person is listening to up to 6 hours per week, 6 hours per week of podcast material. You have to be very careful who you let have your ear, because whoever has your ear has your heart. That's why podcasting has become one of the fastest growing mediums in the world. And so you have to be very selective in who you allow to pour into you. And I believe our guest today is one of those people you should allow to pour into you. Thank you for listening to Black Equity Podcast. Thank you for supporting the Black Equity Network. And if you're interested in being on the Black Equity Podcast, make sure you reach out to us on Instagram at Black Equity Network. Once again, great episode, and I'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow.